Everyone, and welcome to the Kiki London YouTube channel. My name's Amanda, and in today's video we're going to be doing some salon friendly nail art, and I'm also going to be sharing some tips and tricks on how I like to get a neat cuticle line. So I'm working on a practice hand. If you were working on yourself or a client, you would do all of your prep. I will leave my prep video linked in the description box below, but we're jumping straight in to applying our base coat, and here I have RB09. Now, starting off, my first tip for getting a neat cuticle line would be to only have a small amount of product on your bottle brush, whether it be your base coat or your gel polish. So as you can see, I've wiped off a lot of that product and I've left a small amount just on the tip of the bottle brush. And then I kind of go as close to the cuticle as I can and then start working that product down the nail. Then I come in and take my detail brush. Now the detail brush from Kiki London is it's thin and short, so it allows you to get really close to those cuticles. So I'm going to take a little bit off my bottle brush and start getting even closer to that cuticle area and around those side walls as well. So by using just a small amount of product on this brush, you have a lot more control. It's a lot easier to get right up close to those cuticles, and then I kind of just come over it again to even it out. And as you can see, we've got nice and close to that cuticle. The second way, which is more my preferred way of doing it, is actually to come in with the detail brush first. So I take a small amount of that base coat on my detail brush. As you can see, I'm applying a fair bit of pressure, and then I'm able to not only get nice and neat around that cuticle area, but I can come down the side walls and then feather the product out a little bit. This stops you having any unevenness between the application that you apply with the bottle brush and the application you've applied with the detail brush. Once I'm happy with how neat my cuticle area is, I'll then come in with the bottle brush to do the rest of the nail, and I will still try and get as close to that cuticle area as possible, but I haven't got to stress because I know I have already got a layer down with the detail brush. So I did exactly the same on the ring and little finger. So that's our base coat done. We're going to cure that, and then we're ready to move on to our gel polish application. So for today's colours, I have vintage white, Peri Nice, which I absolutely love at the moment for transitioning into spring nails. And then I've also got the gorgeous Mrs. Grey as well, because again, a grey I find brilliant for this time of year. And then I do want to add a little bit of glitter into this set, so I have the beautiful Ice Queen. So I'm going to show you guys both ways with the vintage white. So first off, coming in straight away with the bottle brush, getting as close to that cuticle and sidewall as possible. And I'm applying this exactly the same as the base coat, just taking a small amount of product on the brush and then getting as close as I can. You want to allow the brush to do a lot of the work for you, so don't be scared to apply a little bit of pressure and then allow the brush to fan out. I personally love the Kiki London bottle brushes because they're not too large or thick and chunky. So when you apply a little bit of pressure with them, they actually fan out nicely and give you a nice neat application. But if you are struggling, again, come in with your detail brush and get a little bit closer. Or again, you can do it the other way around. So I'm taking my detail brush, applying a small amount of that vintage white, using a little bit of pressure, the same as what I did with the bottle brush, letting the bristles fan out. You're able to then get nice and neat around those cuticles and then fade the colour down a little bit. Now, if you do still happen to touch the skin or the cuticles, because let's be honest, it does happen, you can then take your angled nail art brush and a little bit of alcohol and wipe that off. As long as you wipe off any product before you cure it, it's going to be really easy to remove. So then I'm going to swap back to that bottle brush and just apply the rest of the gel polish to the rest of the nail. And personally, this is just how I found it. Super easy to get that nice, neat cuticle line. We're going to do it here again with glitter as well, because personally glitter can be a little bit difficult to get a neat cuticle line with, especially when it's a glitter in a clear gel. So by taking a small amount on your detail brush first of all, you've got a lot more control over getting that neat cuticle line. A lot of the time with glitter as well, it really sticks to the brush. So again, make sure that you've not got too much on your bottle brush. So don't be scared to wipe quite a bit of it off before you come in and start applying it to the nail. Now on the pointer finger, we're going to be doing a vertical ombre, but I wanted to show you guys the exact same technique applies with getting that neat cuticle line first of all, especially when you're doing something like a vertical ombre because you're using two colours very close to that cuticle area. So I'm going to do exactly the same. I'm going to take that detail brush, I'm dipping into the Mrs. Grey first of all, and I've done that side. Then I've swapped to the Peri Nice, and as you can see, we're just going around halfway around that cuticle area, and I'm coming up the side wall a little bit as well, because coming around the side walls can be just as difficult as getting a neat cuticle line. Then we're going to swap to the bottle brush, and because we're doing a vertical ombre, I'm taking Peri Nice all the way down one side of the nail. Then we're going to swap to the Mrs. Grey and bring that down the other side of the nail. Now these two colours, they've got a little bit of a muted tone to them. They're really soft and subtle, so they are perfect for a beginner friendly ombre. Of course, to make your ombre even easier, you do need the Kiki London ombre brush. This makes ombre effortless. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brush and I'm simply coming right down the center of that nail where those two colors meet and just blending them out. Then without cleaning off my brush, I've flipped it around so that I'm taking a little bit of that Mrs. Grey into the Peri Nice and vice versa. And then because I've got quite a bit of gel polish built up on my brush, when it went out of shot there, I'm just cleaning it up on one of the Kiki London alcohol wipes. Then at this point, I'm actually fairly happy with the ombre. So I'm just holding the brush on its side and just neatening up any areas that might need a little bit more blending. And then this is what our first gel polish coat looks like. So now that all four nails are done, we're going to pop them in to cure for 30 seconds, ready to jump in and do our second coat. So on the ombre now, because it's a little bit tricky, I'm going to come in straight away with that detail brush and go around the cuticle area. I don't actually usually do this on my second coat when I'm just doing full cover nails, so you will see on the rest of the nails I just come straight in with the bottle brush. But with an ombre, a vertical ombre especially, where you've got to kind of turn your brush onto its side, it is easier to just come straight in with that detail brush, get a nice neat cuticle, and then you've not got to worry about that cuticle area for the rest of that nail design. So then as you can see here, when I'm taking my brush, rather than using it the normal way, I've turned it on its side. This way the brush is a little bit thinner. And again, you don't want to have too much gel polish on your brush. When you are doing an ombre, you do kind of need a generous amount of gel polish that you're able to blend it together nicely. But you don't want too much product on your brush that is going to start flooding the cuticles or the side walls. And then again, taking my ombre brush, I'm just going to start blending down that nail. To get a nice neat ombre, you want to use nice light feathery strokes, gently pull through the colours. I actually lately find vertical ombres a little bit easier to do than horizontal ones, but it does depend on the colours you are using. Mrs. Grey here is a lovely subtle color, so it blends in really nicely with the Peri Nice because that's another soft and subtle shade as well. Personally, I find a lot of the Kiki London colors ombre effortlessly because a lot of them will have that creamy consistency, and if you're putting two creamy consistency products together, naturally they blend nicely together. So now we're going to move on to the next three nails, and here we're doing that second coat. And like I said, on the second coat, I don't stress too much because you've already got that nice, neat, close cuticle application. That is a lot easier to just come straight in with your bottle brush. You can see here, I'm really pressing down on this second coat with my bottle brush so that it's fanning out. And I don't know why, but the second coat around the cuticle area just goes on a lot easier. I think it's because you've got the first coat down as a guide and you know you've just got to come directly over the top. Same goes with your glitter application. The only difference I do a lot of the time with my glitter application is I'll actually focus more on the tip end half of the nail. This way I'm getting rid a lot of that glitter gel polish off my bottle brush. I'm basically coating that half of the nail first and then working up towards the cuticle area. So then when you are working in that cuticle zone, you've not got as much product on your brush. That's our second coat done, so we're ready to move on to some nail art. Because I want to do some hand painted nail art, on these two middle nails, so the middle and the ring finger, I'm actually going to come in with a layer of the No White matte top coat first of all. Having a matte surface makes hand painted nail art a lot easier because I personally find the gel polish just stays exactly where you've put it when you're popping it down onto a matte surface. Sometimes when you're popping it down onto a glossy surface, it can kind of run a little bit and the edges don't stay as crisp and as sharp. So just popping down a thin coat of matte top coat just alleviates that a little bit. Now for our nail art, we're going to be using the Peri Nice, but instead of Mrs. Grey, I went for a darker grey, so I went for charcoal grey. And then we're going to be coming in with our stripe liner brush. If you guys watch the channel, you'll know how much I rave about this brush. I use it every single time I do any kind of nail art because in my opinion, it's so versatile. Now, you could use the detail brush for these little flowers as well. It is just my personal preference to go with the stripe liner brush. It has a super thin tip, so you're able to create really small, intricate designs with it. Now, this design we're doing today isn't necessarily intricate. It's very simple, salon friendly, beginner friendly, but it's a lot easier to do having the stripe liner brush in your kit. So what I'm doing is at the start of using this brush, I always like to really run it through the gel polish to make sure all the inner bristles are coated. Then I'll wipe off a lot of the excess, and depending on the design I'll do, so with these little flowers, I'm predominantly leaving the gel polish on the tip of the brush. And then we're simply doing 5 little lines to make that little flower shape, making them all meet up in the center. Like I said, it is very, very simple. So once I've got those 4 little flowers down on the nail, I did go back up to this one in the near the cuticle area just to round out the edges because it was looking more like a star than a flower. Then I did flash cure those just to freeze them in place, and then I'm going to swap to the dotting tool and that charcoal grey gel polish just to pop down the centres of the nails. So I'm loading up the dotting tool and I'm simply popping a little dot in all of the centres, and it just really brings the floral design together. Then we're going to swap back to the stripe liner brush, and I want to just add on some greenery and some leaves. Obviously not greenery because in this set they're grey, but you guys know what I mean. So I'm simply doing a little stem to join up the 2 flowers, and then again using the very tip of the brush, I'm just painting on some little tiny leaves. And again, like I said with the brushes previous, let the brush do a lot of the work for you. So as you can see here, when I'm doing this line, I'm allowing that brush to fan out a little bit so I can get a nice neat line without having to do too much work. On the end of it, I'm just going to bring 2 little lines to a point, and then we're doing the same as we go down and create the smaller leaves. I really liked how this looked as well with the charcoal grey. Originally, I was going to do this step in black, but I opted for the charcoal grey because it kind of made the whole look a lot more softer, which worked beautifully for spring. This particular nail, the floral design, was actually a design I see by a lovely nail tech on Instagram. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but I will leave her Instagram linked in the profile below in case you want to check out her work, because I really loved how soft and pretty the florals looked in her design. So I took that as inspiration for this set of nails. So we're just finishing off our leaf. I liked how bold this looked going through the center of the nail. Like obviously the grey, like I said, is quite soft, but having that main leaf running through and then the smaller florals, I thought looked quite like a nice mix between bold and soft, if that makes sense. Now, when you are doing any kind of hand painting, one of the things I would recommend is taking advantage of the 10-second flash cure feature on the Kiki London Deluxe lamp. So this is the lamp I have pictured here. This has a 10-second feature, and that means you can do a little part of your design. So for example, you can do one floral and then pop it in for a 10-second flash cure, and it's not going to fully cure the gel polish, but it freezes it in place so you don't smudge it when you're working on the next part of the nail. And I use this feature all of the time, so it's definitely worthwhile upgrading to this lamp if you don't have it already. On to the next now, we're doing very similar, but I started off by doing my flowers with my dotting tool. So I'm going to take my dotting tool, I'm going to do a dot to sort of mark out where I want the center to be, and then I'm going to come around with 5 little dots and then just pull those dots into the center. And this was actually a lot easier than the previous way, just because it gave you a guide of where to put your petals. So again, if you're just starting out doing any kind of hand painting, or if you're like me and struggle with hand painting, these little tips really help. I can't remember where I see this, because I think I see quite a lot of texts do flowers this way, and it's definitely a lot easier. So again, we're just popping a dot down in the center, 5 little dots very close around it. If you want your flower to be larger, then do larger dots and pop them slightly further away from your center dot. I then flash cured the Peri Nice, and then I've come over the top with that charcoal grey to add on the little centers. And then again, we're going to do some more leaves just coming through this nail. I didn't want it to look exactly the same as the previous nail, just to mix it up a little bit. So I'm going to come and do one leaf here, and this is going to be the one you predominantly see. So I'm trying to get this as neat as possible. And I really like hand painting on leaves, but I definitely need a little bit more practice. But just coming down, doing you don't want to do a straight line, you want it to swoosh out a little bit so it looks natural. And then just using the very tip of that brush, we're adding on those individual leaves. And then we're just going to do a very similar down here, because I want to fill in this part of the nail a little bit more as well. Now, whilst I'm doing that, I just want to take the moment to ask you guys, if you have any designs you would like to see, please do let me know in the comments below. I try mixing up the channel with some salon friendly things, some things that might be a little bit more harder, some things that have been requested, a mix of gel polish designs and builder gel. But the next couple of weeks, if you have any requests, pop them in the comments below and I will do my best to get them done. Personally, I love doing a lot more sets with foils, water decals and stamping over hand painting. But if there's anything in particular you'd like to see hand painted, do let me know. Whether it be a design you've seen on Instagram and you might want to know how it's recreated, or if there's something in particular you're struggling with achieving, I can see if I can do it in a video and share any tips and tricks that I might have. So yeah, like I said, any suggestions, please do pop them in the comments below. I wanted to add some crystals onto this ombre nail because it was looking just a little bit plain. So I've taken the Kiki London No White Rubber Top Coat. I've popped a thin layer of this down, and then whilst it is still wet, I'm going to start adding in the Kiki London AB crystals. I love an AB crystal because they work in any colour set and they reflect the light absolutely beautifully. So for this design, I've popped the largest crystal in the middle, and then I'm just going out in sizes until they get smaller. Now, when you purchase the Kiki London crystals, they do come with the sizes separated. So in the packet, they're all separated, but I've just poured them into one pot, as this is how I've always preferred to work with my crystals. And then just using the gem tool, I'm using the waxy end to pick up my crystal, and then that dotting tool end to nudge them into place. Then once you are happy with your crystal placement, you do need to pop the rubber top coat in to cure for 60 seconds. And then we are ready to come in and top coat the rest of the nails. I top coated the crystal now first of all, just so I didn't knock any of those crystals out of place. But again, this is just optional. Now I'm using the No White Rubber Top Coat over that Ice Queen. However, I am going to switch to the matte top coat over the two middle nails because I really loved how soft these two nails looked and I wanted to keep that effect. And I find that the matte top coat, especially over these lighter shades, gives off that more soft, velvety appearance, and I absolutely love that. And I do also really love a set of nails that has a combination of both glossy and matte. So we're just applying a thin coat of top coat to these nails. We're going to then pop that in to cure for 30 seconds, and that is the end of the design and video. As always, I will leave all of the products I've used linked in the description box below with the link to the Kiki London website, so do check that out. If you did enjoy today's video, please do give it a thumbs up, leave us a comment below, and if you're not already subscribed to the channel, I would absolutely love it if you hit that subscription button. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you're all keeping safe and well, and wishing you all a lovely weekend. Lots of love. Take care. Bye bye.